Hey everyone, we are back with our third episode of anaxSKOOL. And today it's staying on the composite topic. Last time we introduced the concepts and how to diagnose the different colors in ethnic gingiva cases. And we didn't really have enough time to go over step by step how to accomplish those necessarily. So today that's what we're going to do. So Florian Steinheber is here with us today, but it's our first doubleheader episode of anaxSKOOL as well. So he has his buddy and amazing technician, Andreas Leimbach, with him. They're actually at Andreas's house hanging out. So this is just the time for us to kind of hang out together and learn from the two of them. We'll start with Florian. He'll take us through a step-by-step case with great photos. We'll take your questions live when you have them. So please post a comment in the live feed, and we can hopefully take your question up and get that answered by Florian. And then after we're done with Florian, we will switch over to Andreas, and he's going to talk to us about his work with composite on permanent restorations. In Europe, that's a much more widely accepted thing. So we're going to learn from his experience on that. So welcome to the third episode of Hey guys.
Hey guys.
Okay, so before we started this episode, I like to meet with my guests and our little website we use to broadcast these. And I said, guys, I'm so nervous. I know I do a real good job of pretending I'm not nervous, but I'm super nervous. So when I was laying in bed last night trying to sleep and super nervous, I got this idea. Like at Annex courses, what do we do, Florian, to break the ice?
Oh, I believe sometimes we drink some orange juice and milk, but in real we have always good shots like in
Okay, true. Orange juice and milk. You're so nice. He's such a German. So at the booth in Chicago, we also get a little nervous because you guys have to understand, technicians and dentists watching, man, the pressure is on the manufacturers and the companies at that show. We have to do well there, so we get really nervous. So if you've been to Chicago Lab Day and you've come to the anaxStent booth, we always have a keg. And this year we found the most anaxStent type liquor in the liquor store. Have you had this? Screwball?
That's amazing.
Peanut butter bourbon. So this morning I Googled I don't know how early liquor stores open. I don't usually go to the liquor store in the morning, but today I thought, I'm nervous. I'm going to have a shot with Florian and Andreas before we start. But y'all couldn't do a shot with me. So you brought what?
So this is a typical beer from here. It sounds Steiny. And it's perfect because Steiny is my nickname here. So it's pretty cool. I wish we had that amazing shot here, but it works also with a beer for us.
Okay. So cheers, guys.
Cheers.
To the third episode of anaxSKOOL. Okay, now let's get going. So, Andreas, first of all, I didn't even ask you to do this until like 2 days ago. So thank you for humoring us and joining us. We knew that we were going to have Florian on the show. Florian said, hey, I'll be with Andreas. I said, oh my God, he has tons of composite experience. Let's get him on too. So we're going to jump right into Florian's step-by-step case so that we can get through all those steps and get questions answered, because I really want to get some time for you as well. I want to pick your brain. So thank you so much. Let's get started, Florian, by showing some step-by-step slides. You want to?
Yeah, perfect. Let's start.
Okay. All right. Now we got you.
I don't can't share my full screen for today, but let's talk about last time we talked about the ethnic cases, and I show you that case from my friend, the wife from my friend Alexander Wünsche, Danielle. So thank you again to give me that, a fantastic picture and your fantastic smile, Danielle. So, and was talking about exactly that case, which is really beautiful, and it's not so much pigments inside. And I try to copy that case for you now to have a step-by-step layering technique.
Well, and I'm lucky I got to go over some of this. Like, this is live, but y'all, we practice a little bit before. So I got to see all these slides before. And you guys, if you're tuning in and you're trying to decide if you have the time to stick around and watch these slides, please do. They're worth it. Take it away, Florian. I love this case.
Thank you. Me too. And I want to show you how easy it is. We talked about last time for my staining technique, and I explained you layering the composite on top. It's not so different from each cases, but the staining technique, that's a really interesting part.
Yes, that's what you differentiate each time. You look at the picture, and the first thing you're doing is trying to see what paints you would use, right?
Exactly. So last time I showed you that picture, so where we analyze the case, and where I was thinking which one is the right color and which stain I have to use for that case. You will see after I changed some stains, I will explain you why. So that's what I do all the time when I have a case and I have to match the gingiva of the patient. I make a picture, a good picture we talked about last time, and then I put like a color map for myself. And that's what I do now with that case. I have not the same situation like from Danielle, but I try to find a model that looks really similar.
Okay, so I know that we're going to talk about composite layering step by step, but here in the States, a lot of technicians have either a lot of crown and bridge experience or a lot of removable experience. So this marriage of the disciplines that hybrids bring us is not all that common here. So we have a lot of crown and bridge technicians that are now getting comfortable with some of the concepts from removable. And the anatomy of the gingiva and the bone structure and colors, all that is relatively new. So where you might think a gingiva cutback is just simple. I know I'd let you know beforehand, I'd like to talk a little bit about this and where you cut back, what your strategy is when you cut back to get the nicest aesthetic result with what you put on top.
Yeah, so for me, this is one of the secrets of a beautiful gingiva design on a hybrid case. If we think, I explained it last time, form and texture is always one of the most important things. It's also here in the gingiva part. I see many cases. You can see the roots of the teeth are really straight all the time, and it looks not really natural.
No. So you're tapering them, and you cut back really deeply, interproximally.
Exactly. So that's bringing more deepness inside. It looks more natural. So I have more space to put my stains inside, and it's pretty good. And I always follow the axis of my teeth, and so you can see it here in that case. The roots, they go always in the direction of the teeth, of the axis of the teeth. And that's
and I think one thing, I'm sorry I keep interrupting you, but I think one thing, because you are so experienced with Anaxgum and similar probably composites where there's translucency to the material, I think it's important for people to understand that aren't experienced with something like Anaxgum, that you don't have, 100% of your form, of your final form, doesn't come from the composite. You're creating that root eminence with your cutback, which is really important because the translucency of the material, it can look like two different colors when you lay it deeply in those interproximal areas, and it's thinner stretched over the root eminence. So that's part of your strategy too, correct?
Exactly, because we're talking many times about that, and for me, there's not always one of the best product, but Anaxgum is for me really one of the best product, because if I layer it now on that cutback, just one color, like orange pink, for example, it looks really natural too.
Yeah.
And if I play just with 2-3 stains, it looks really amazing. And I never found that in another composite on the market, because most of them are too opaque or the colors are not right. So with Anaxgum, it's fantastic. You layer one color and it looks perfect. It looks really natural. And if you follow this cutback technique, and it's not like you need so much space, this is amazing if I have a space like that, but it's not necessary to have so
Not
much
every
space.
time. If you don't have it, like if you've got screw channels or cylinders you're trying to leave thickness around, you don't have to cut back that much.
You can see later from my buddy Andreas, he makes a lot of removable cases, and there's sometimes not enough space. We're talking about less than 1 millimeter. And with Anaxgum, I get my full aesthetic of that case.
Yeah.
That's for me the reason. I would say Anaxgum is for me the best pink composite on the market. It's easy to handle, and if you follow just some nice cutback techniques or that, it looks amazing. So, and staining technique we're talking about today, I will show you a little bit about that. And before we layered the composite or the stains, we have to do always a bonding. And I want to explain just a few things about bonding, my protocol for bonding steps. It depends on the frame material. If you have zirconia or metal or pectin, for example, there's just a little bit difference between the bonding protocol. I do a lot of things with pectin, and the bonding between pectin and composite is really awesome. It's fantastic. So what I do is I always clean my surface with alcohol before I sandblast. To have a really clean surface. I know you have a really amazing sandblasting system in the US. I need it too. I don't have it.
The AquaCare.
The AquaCare is amazing.
Yeah, it's cool.
So good. I still need it in my lab. So what I do, I clean it first with alcohol, and then I sandblast the surface. I use 110 micron and go up to 2 to 3 bars, and it's good as well. But with AquaCare,
you can go up to like 5. You can go up to 10 bar, I think, but 5 bar for pectin, and I don't know if you need that much for PMMA. But yeah, it's really powerful. Yeah. But it's not necessary. Like you can still use a regular sandblaster at 2 to 3 bar.
Exactly. Okay. Exactly. So after sandblasting, I put my bonding on top, and there are differences between the bondings. For pectin, I use the PEC bond from Anax. It's a wonderful bonding system. You have to layer it really thin on the surface.
Yeah.
Nothing about much is better. No, less is more.
That's probably one of the most common problems when somebody calls and we try to troubleshoot composite delamination. I'd say 7 out of 10 are probably, oh yeah, I put a lot of bonder on there. So you're right. You have to put a thin layer or else it doesn't cure, right?
Exactly. So a thin layer, I wait before I cure it for 10 to 15 seconds, just that the MMA inside and the bonding can work a little bit better. And then I cure it on the right time. That's really important. So I cure the bonding for 90 seconds, not more. And be careful, there are some really strong light curing machines in the US, like from Danceplay, E-Tray, they have a really strong one. With
like heat, ones that heat it up, and that's not good. Okay.
No, that's really, it kills the bonding always. It's not
really?
Good. It's
the heat kills the bonding?
Yeah, because they cure too strong, you know. For the bondings, it's like with the composite. If you layer the composite, you have this inhibition layer, so it's a little bit sticky on the surface.
Sticky layer.
And that's just exactly the same with the bonding. It has to be a little bit sticky on the surface to bond the composite really well. So if you put a heating on top, so they cure too strong and the bonding is not really good.
Okay.
So that we have to take care about that. Thin layer, then I cure it for 90 seconds, and here we are. We can start. So that's really, really quick. So first of all, I want to show you my painting technique, and that's what I learned. Aesthetics, so the colors come always from inside. We talked last time about the natural color of the gingiva is white, so it's just the colors brings us how much we from gingiva have on the bone. If we have the roots really strong. So that brings us the color. So what I do always, I start with my staining technique for my gingiva.
Okay, so the header down there that I wrote is apply Anaxgum paints. But I don't think you used Anaxgum paints on that, the brown, right? Is it like Anax Blend Colors S? Because we have, just so everybody understands, Anaxtent makes like a tooth shade kind of staining system, and then they make paints for staining with Anaxgum. Exactly. And the paints in Anaxgum are limited to one brown shade. So I guess you looked at that brown shade and you switched for some reason to this one. Can you tell us why?
Yeah, so of course, so they have a brown inside in the
dark
gum.
Brown.
Really dark. And let's see, when you go to the next picture, I'll show you again. In this case, this is not a really dark brown, it's much more orange inside.
Okay.
And of course, I can mix it, but if I mix now my stains, I never can do it again. It's always different.
Always different, sure.
I prefer to have some stain outside of my string, and I know it's exactly the same for the next time too.
Yeah, that makes sense.
You can see it here. Here I make a note about stain Shoko. So there are two browns inside in the colors S, the stain Shoko and stain brown, and they're a little bit different. So here I noticed the Shoko, and if we go back to that slide, you can see now I use the stain brown. I explain you why, because I missed the stain Shoko in my lab, and I was using the stain brown. I'm not really happy, I tell you that. It's way too much orange inside. The stain Shoko would be perfect, but
okay, so this happens all the time, though, that we'll have people call and have us overnight something to finish a case, but sometimes overnight takes too long. You got to get the case out that day. So this is a common problem. You didn't have Choco, so you went with this slightly different brown color, but like, okay, you can see the difference. But is it likely that the patient and the doctor are going to see the difference?
Sure, but sometimes pisses me off because,
well, you should just buy everything all the time and have it there, Florian. Come on.
Yeah, that's about the stain, which I mean is that's always with people asking me, oh, which color I have to. I say, you have to buy a whole kit. You need all the colors. You never know. I never use brown or brown pink, for example. And one time a doctor calls me and say, I have a patient from Africa. I showed it last time. And so I was thinking, oh, shit, I missed that color. So you never know. And then I called and the company said, oh, there's a problem.
It's on back order.
So shit. So then I have to wait for another week.
Yeah.
Brown pink. So that's the reason I prefer to have everything in my lab. You never know when you have to use it. So
instead of piecing together a kit where it's only the stuff you're going to use all the time, you prefer to just have all the stains there because you don't ever know when you're going to get a case like this that requires those different colors. That makes sense. Hey, before we move on, I missed a couple comment questions that came in about the bonding step, and there's one that's really interesting. So can I bring it up really quick and then we can continue? Thank you, Dan. Dan always has great questions, and I actually sent him a message before this and I said, please come with your great questions. He says, do you let the bonder stand in darkness to work or etch more? Which is a really interesting question.
It's a really good one, Dan. Thank you for that. Yeah, so it's better to put it on a dark place because its lights will always cure the materials. Composite cures around 400 nanometers, go up to 520, 540, and the bonding as well. So, and this is exactly what we have with the daylight and most of the lights we have.
Okay, so ambient light will cure the bonder. Yes. So his question is a good one. Do you think, is there any evidence out there that I haven't seen any that maybe letting it sit on the PMMA, letting the Bond LC sit on the PMMA with that monomer for a little while before you cure it?
Yes.
Have you ever heard of any studies on that, if it works better?
It was for me, I do my test by myself first, and so the basic of this bonding is MMA. MMA is the same like this in the acrylics. The liquid works.
Yeah.
So think about if you're working on Pacton, it's also a polymer or PMMA or composite. So the MMA can work on top of the surface. It's like a little etching, and it's pretty cool. So
there's nothing wrong with it. Like there's nothing that would cause a problem, I wouldn't think, if you put it in a dark space. So Dan, I don't think there's a risk to it. I think we don't really know if it creates a different level of bond, but it's a great idea.
It is. So let's talk about it. I mean, we wait for 10 to 15 seconds. That's not much time.
Not a lot, not like 5 minutes. You wait, like put it maybe in a dark drawer for maybe 30 seconds and then bring it out and cure it.
So it's not 100% necessary to put it in the dark place, but it's, we're always working with our storage. Sometimes we say, oh, I have a better feeling if I do that. So it's nothing wrong to do that. Of course, 10 to 15 seconds is not enough time to cure it for daylight. But at the end, if you want to follow a really good protocol, I say yes, do it.
Okay. Okay, one more bonding question before we move on. It's a good one too. I don't know if you have any experience with the multi-stratum material from Zirconia. I don't have a lot of experience with it. I've gotten some questions recently. It's like a flexible polymer.
Mm.
Do you have any experience with it, with bonding? No?
With the flexible materials, and we have to talk about what do you want to bond on top. Composite on top and the flexible material is always a risk. So
yes.
That's what I'm telling for, like, when I started working with Pacton and people asking me about the difference between PEEK and PAC. So I said, this is one of the most important difference for me. Pacton is more hard, more stable than PEEK. PEEK is too flexible for me. Composite is not really flexible. So if you have flexible material, like for the temps, for example, and it's too flexible, I would say you have always cracks inside in your composite.
Okay, so Edgardo that's asking the question, he and I had the conversation on the phone a couple weeks ago about exactly this. I'm really glad. Thank you, Edgardo, for asking. And that was my thought. I thought, well, if you've got a flexible material, now, first of all, I wasn't familiar with the polymer, specific polymer that multistratum is. It was like a polycarbonate something. I said, I don't know about the chemical bond to that, but if it's flexible, you're going to have a problem because the composite is not flexible. It's rigid and it's going to crack, and even it could delaminate. It could either crack or pop off. So I would say, wouldn't you, that we don't really know. Like, the answer to that question, I don't know. Maybe Bond LC, maybe PEC Bond. I guess we need to talk to Zirconia and figure it out.
There's some special bonding for these materials. So of course with Bond LC or PEC Bond, it's should be works too, but they have some special bonding for these materials. But
they do.
The bonding is not a real problem. So the real problem is the flexibility and a really strong material like composite. So for me, it doesn't work. Just if you have so much space that is the frame or your temporary or something, it brings us so much stability inside. Okay, it would work. But if it's too thin, it's too flexible. It's not a question about the bonding.
Okay, and I got to show this one because I've got an ego just like anybody else, but it says I'm the best at helping. So now it's like I'm the best, not just one of the best. I'm the best. So thank you. Thank you so much, Ed. Oh, and back to Dan's question, because he had kind of a follow-up question. I think we mentioned it, but just to reiterate it one more time, because it's so important, he's asking, can you apply too thick of bonder? And I know your answer.
Yeah, you can, of course. They have to be really thin. If you work too thick, it doesn't work. It's not a bonding. You cure it on the surface, but to the frame, it's not really a connecting. So if you work too thick, it doesn't work.
Okay, so there's our answer. And then Ben has a very important question. Ben Mueller has a very important question. Why is your hair still so long? That is so yesterday. I don't agree, Ben. Ben cut all his hair off and he's like bald now. So maybe he's projecting a little bit. I don't know.
Well, yeah, I'm older than you, Ben, my friend. So maybe that's the reason for I'm old school. I make so much analog and.
Okay, so we don't have a whole lot of time left to go over these steps. So let's move along. Thank you so much, guys, for the great questions. And Melanie Williams is saying, hey. Hey, Melanie. Okay, so back to paints. You've got your brown stain that comes from a different, the tooth shade system from Anaxgum.
Exactly. So this is the stain brown. Case again to realize what we need now. Then I start with the red stains, and that color is really important for me. That first of all, the color is really cool. It looks like a natural blood, so it's really cool. And you can play. If you see like here, I applied between the roots, so it looks more really deep. You know, if you
if you remove the gingiva, that's what you'd see, right? Is blood settling in those areas. So you're recreating what's there naturally.
Exactly. So this is stained red. You can work really thin, more thicker. It works really good.
Is it possible to get too thick with the paints where they don't cure all the way?
Normally not, because
Okay.
it's impossible.
Because they kind of settle out, like they're low enough viscosity, I guess, that they thin out themselves.
They are too flowable, so you cannot layer with that stain. So they're too flowable. It doesn't work. But of course, think about if you have a lot of pigments inside, like in stains. We have to talk. It's really dark, you know, and sometimes the light has problems, but not with the stains. But if you work with still dark colors from the composite, can be happen. So normally, I would say for the composite, maximum thickness is 2 millimeters, but with that stains, it's impossible to build up. Like
you can't build it up. Okay.
Okay, so stained red, and after that, I cure it.
Okay.
I fix it, so I'm using that from Spectrolab, the LED, and I fixed it there for 3 minutes, and it's enough. So then I start with layering my first composite, and I go there with the light pink first.
Oh, light pink first. Okay.
In that case, you can see it later on the case. There's some more value in that case sometimes, and that's the reason I use first light pink. After that, I covered everything with the dark pink, and that's what I'm using. I'm using paste. I cannot do that with flow. Maybe I do it, but I try to bring my form and texture always inside. I don't like it to grind something on my gingiva, so I try always to layer that with my instruments, and that's it.
Okay, so I've noticed something about what you do with texture, and I want to ask you. You're texturizing even the layer you're going to cover with another layer. Why?
First of all, you never know if you have too much space, less space, and you never know if you have not enough space for another color. So I have my texture always inside. The other thing is, for me, it looks more natural if I layer the next layer, or sometimes I put now some stains inside, and that's filling surface, and it looks pretty cool, you know. So
because it kind of settles into the texture.
Exactly.
Okay, so we got another really good question that I want to ask you at this point, because that's the stage. I know everybody's asking. Thank you, guys. So, which Anaxgum pastes are opaque and which are translucent? And that's a great question, because to understand the material on that level is really important to know what you're going to get out of that curing light, because it does change a little bit in translucency after you cure it. So you've explained to me before, you know which pastes are more translucent than others. Can you help us understand that?
Yeah. So first of all, I don't using opaquer. So I work most of the time directly on top and pack them. So this is a really opaque. I mean, this is not translucency in the frame. Then with the stains, they're also opaque. What's bringing me more translucent? If you think about orange pink is more opaque, dark pink is less opaque. I would say orange pink is one of the most opaque material in the system. Then dark pink, purple pink brings us more translucent than all the others. The brown pink is really translucent. The light pink, it's
well, the brown pink is super translucent, because I've seen, I think Lee Mullins is the one that showed me that sometimes he uses brown pink, and if he makes it thin enough, you don't see the brown anymore. It's just translucent.
It's true. You can see it here in the case too. You know, there's finally I used also the brown pink, and if you see the case, natural case from Danielle, there's not so much brown pink you can see.
No.
It's pretty cool. We can see it later. So let's talk about later about brown pink. But yeah, so I would say brown pink and the purple pink are really high translucent.
Okay.
But what you have to do, Mark, is always play with the stains. If you layer just the composite, and sometimes it looks too opaque, play with the stains, like you can see it here. Even if you just using the red stains, it's much better than without. So it gives us more the feeling. It's more three dimension. You know, if you take a look to the case then. So the secret for me is really it's the stain technique. If you're using just red stains, it's pretty cool. Huh?
Okay, great question. Thank you. And orange pink used to be the most popular shade, like by far.
I know.
But I've noticed now that Anaxgum has kind of become the go-to product for putting on like full arch PMMA prototypes. Dark pink is now the most popular shade, but I think it's because for prototypes, you want it simple. If you're just going to do a simple pink, using dark pink, the translucency of it allows that white PMMA to come through, and then it looks like two different colors. So it makes sense now that you tell me the orange pink is the most opaque.
Yeah, it's funny because we're thinking dark pink, it's more opaque because it's dark, but it's nothing happened about that. Orange pink is more opaque, and I know also that most of the gums are orange pink. I brought some last year. You remember?
Yeah, I do. We ran out. Okay, so we ran out of orange pink, and Florian had to like bring a special delivery over of all these orange pink pastes. So it's still popular, but I'm noticing like people don't like it when we run out of it. I'll tell you that. So we've had to go to some pretty extreme lengths to get it.
I love the orange pink too. So it's a fantastic color. But if you just use too much orange pink, it looks too modulated. It's not.
Well, and Mark posted this other comment, not so much a question, but he said it looks great at the cervical, and that makes sense because we've seen in other episodes of anaxSKOOL how some technicians will kind of stain the cervical of a crown that they're going to layer composite over. They'll stain the cervical with some yellow and orange stain, whether it's like glaze from ceramic or composite paint. So that makes sense that the orange pink looks good at the cervical. Thanks, Mark.
Really, because most of the technicians, they're thinking we have to go just with light pink on the cervical, and it looks on a model, it looks pretty cool. But inside the mouth, so you have not a really clear border between the teeth and the gingiva.
Yeah.
So that's the reason I prefer also put first dark pink, orange pink, or here we have the stains. To have a really good border from teeth to the pink aesthetic. It's important if you have, especially in the US with all the bleach cases, if you go just light pink on a bleach or A1, B1 color, so you never realize that border cervical to the gingiva.
Okay.
Good. So let's follow up. So here you can see I start working with the purple pink. Later, when we take a look to the natural gingiva, you can see here on that side is more purple pink. So I layered more purple pink. It looks really good, and you can see it's a really strong color, but it's translucent.
Yeah.
So
it's letting those brown stains really show through, I think, more than people realize. And I've played with Gradia, and Gradia there are a couple of shades I love because it's got so much color in it. But it can't do that. Like it's not translucent enough to show that stain through. Exactly. So that's really nice.
That's happened all the time on my courses, you know, when I started my painting techniques, the people are really afraid of me, say, are you crazy? I mean, it's so strong.
But the composite just diffuses it. It really diffuses it.
Yes, you can see it here. It's just thin, dark pink on top. You can see it's not a lot of material. Thin dark pink on top. Now it's just thin layer of brown pink, and it's not so strong anymore. All right, so yeah, we're talking about last time. That's the instrument I use for the stippling technique. I think it's necessary. So I know I started working with old brushes, but it's not really helpful. So
I thought, like we said before, I thought you were using like an old ratty brush. I didn't know you were using like a special brush from Smileline because when I saw it, it looked old. But since you told me that, we actually started selling a double-sided handle. So it's both instruments in one. We call it the gum brush. And people love it. Like they've got the really strong side that's in that picture. So it gives really strong gingiva. And then the light side, I see you use most of the time, right? Is the light side.
That's right.
Or the soft side, whatever.
With the hard brush, it's sometimes they're too strong. In ceramic, there's no problem. So this the brush is made from a good friend Eduardo from Spain, and he using that for ceramic. So I started once using that for the composite technique. I love it too, but you have to take care. So I use first the hard one and go over there with the softer one.
Oh, okay. So you use them one after the other sometimes because the soft can kind of smooth it out if it gets too dramatic with the hard.
Yeah,
that makes sense.
In that case from Danielle, I use just the hard one because stippling in that case from Danielle is really strong, so it looks really pretty cool with the hot brush.
Okay.
And by the way, I told it last week to Olivier, and he loves you also about thinking this is all ceramic brush.
Sorry, Olivier.
Okay, so again, back to the case. So you can see it here. Maybe you can.
It is really strong stippling. I didn't notice before you said that.
Yeah, so we have to take a look always to the patients. You know, it's important. And maybe after now we talk about the colors and my staining technique, you can realize more now the color, what you can see on that picture. Let's go to the next one. So you can see it here. I use here, there's the color translucent pink. Translucent pink is really translucent. So it's pretty cool. I like in that case to make my veins inside with the stains, with the red stains. So which means I use first the translucent pink, and then I take a really thin brush and stain inside my veins.
Okay, so for those of you who aren't experienced with the Anaxgum system, the translucent pink is only in flow. It's not a paste. So it's a flowable consistency. So it's easy to blend paints into it, right?
Exactly, yeah.
Okay.
So then we have some really more white spots inside. I use again the light pink. Then we have some really strong stains in the natural case from Danielle. I stain it after now because if I cover that with composites, I don't see it anymore. So that's what I do. Also, I make a little bit mix between the stain cream, stain red, and light pink, and mix some brighter parts inside. So Danielle, she had it, and she have it, and I want to cover that.
Well, and the stain red that's right there in the middle, I noticed after you showed me the side-by-side, because I got to see these in advance, she had that. That exists on her. It's not to say that you do that on every case, but you were matching her. You were trying to match this picture, and that's what you did.
Exactly. Yeah, so, and also here you can see, you know, now the stain cream, stain red is also inside in the kit. And sometimes you do gray cream, but in this case I need it, so I have it in my kit. That's what I mean. I never want to miss a color.
Hey, we have one more good question that goes right in line with what we're talking about. And we did get to it in this episode. For one thing, you like the translucent pink flowable for. Is there anything else you like to use that for? It's not as commonly used, I think, over here.
Sometimes in some cases, but it's like I have two cases. I have it on the cervical area, so there was a really translucent part, and then I used it. So in the beginning, when I started with the Anaxgum, I used it to cover the surface of my composite when I finish my and like a sealing, like a lofty glaze. I don't do that anymore because think about the translucent pink is not filled with ceramic parts that bring us not the same stability like a dark pink or light pink.
So this leads oh, you're so perfect. Perfect segue to the next question, which is you use mostly pastes. Are the flowables denser, which will polish up better? And you were just getting into that, which is the pastes are obviously highly filled, more so than the flow. That's why they're so stable. Exactly. So the more ceramic, the more polishable, and the denser composite material you get. Is that correct?
It's right. So the flows are much easier to polish, but it's not the same stability. Like, I mean, it's more than enough. It's not like we're talking of we have some problems, but for me, most of the points is really my layering technique, so that I never want to grind anymore, and that's the reason I use the paste. So it's much easier for me. But of course, for polishing, the flows are much easier to polish.
Yeah, and then also Mark makes a really good point. the translucent pink, he said it's more jelly-like. It's not as flowable, so I guess the viscosity is different. So it's difficult for him to form it the way he wants. That's another advantage of the paste, correct? You can really get your form and texture where you want it, and it doesn't slump out. So it's easier to control. So that's a good point, Mark.
Yeah.
Okay, and I know we're like way behind schedule, but this is all really good information and great questions. So let's move on.
Yeah, so I'm almost done. So this is the final result. And I will show you the next slide. So on the right side is Danielle, and the left side is the case. I told you that in the beginning. I'm not 100%.
It's crazy to me that you're not 100% happy with this, first of all. Second, I got an email from a prosthodontist who I just love, who actually I want to have on the show at some point, named Lambert Stumple. And he said, I watched your last episode of anaxSKOOL. It was awesome. So much good information. But that's an awful lot of work to do for just showing the papilla. And I kind of laughed because, I mean, he's right. He's not wrong. It is a lot of work. So I know you're not happy, but it's insanely good. And I know that you spend a lot of time staring at these pinks. So you see things that, most importantly, the patient and the dentist do not. So they're very happy with this. So I have a question for you.
Yes.
When is good enough good enough? Like, it's good enough. It's like beyond good enough. So here in the States, we're always working fast. We are always behind because we have now, thank God, everything came back after COVID. So everybody's really busy again.
Yeah, it's a really good question.
I know last time I asked you, okay, so if it's just a provisional, you just slap some pink on there and send it out the door. And you had a really good answer for that. You said no, because whatever you're going to do in the final, you want to give that patient a proper expectation for what they're going to get. You don't want to surprise them down the road.
Exactly. I know it's a huge difference between the US market and the German market. For example, the Germans, they like it if we buy a car, we go inside to the dealer and say, I want that car in red with white leather and this and that. So that's not really famous in the US. You go inside to the dealer and say, I want to buy this car and I want to take it with me at home today. So it's different. But I think we're talking about a lot of money, really a hell of money sometimes for the cases. And I think it's fair and good if we can give everything what we can do for our patients and also for the dentists too, and for us it's the same. If I'm layering just one color all time and to do that for the rest of my life, I would not be happy. It's sometimes crazy, and it's sometimes too much work, and we spend too much hours for that. But it's in the end, it's a part of fun too, So I appreciate my job. I love my job, and I love to play with good materials, and that's what we do. And at least, in that case, it's cost me around, let's say, 1 hour to layer that.
Okay.
Not much.
Okay. So Casey asked a really good question, because I recently had a group of labs switch from custom tinting with acrylic over to composite. And I told them, listen, this is going to save you so much time because you're not putting it in a pressure pot for 30 minutes to an hour. You're just putting it in a curing light for a few minutes, But it ended up taking them so much more time, because with acrylic, you don't have a choice. You've got working time of 5 to 10 minutes, and it's got to be in that pressure pot. You have to stop. With composite, you never have to stop. So if you're crunched for time, is there something that you do? Do you have any tips on what you can do to keep yourself in check with how much time you're spending?
I mean, that's maybe a good question to give it to my friend Andreas, because he tells me always I'm the slowest technician in the world, and I believe he's true, So maybe he can answer it much better than me.
Okay. So Andreas, you're going to answer that question for me. Florian just basically admitted that he has no self-control with composite. So I get it. But I think that what you just showed, Florian, is a great way to get the point across that, look, it's not that complicated. You could even do it simpler than you did. Like, look how much detail you copied from the natural picture into this case. So I think that's an amazing job. I'm sorry you're not happy with it. You're really missing out.
No, but we have to talk when we make full arch cases. Normally, we don't have to match the natural color, So
Right.
it happens some cases, but it's just I want to show what's possible with that system from Anax, and I believe it's a really good system to play like that. You will see it now with some much more amazing cases from my friend Andreas. So I would say I'm finished my lecture.
Oh, yay. Good job. You did such a good job. Thank you.
For the next episode. Thank you guys for the great question. Maybe text or make some message. Give us some comments. What do you want to see next? If you want to see more an Asian patient or a South American Latin, or what do you want? So maybe give us some comments for the next episode.
And I've ever since we started doing so, Florian did a YouTube video for us. Well, he did a video. We put it on YouTube about a week or two ago. If you haven't watched it, definitely go to our YouTube channel, Anaxgum North America, and check it out. You go step by step. I mean, it's in pretty much real time. I cut out some of the like texturing work you were doing because I couldn't. Okay, you get a little overkill on the texture, Florian, but almost everything is there. So go watch it. But since we put that on there, and since we did the last episode of anaxSKOOL with you, I've had quite a few people contacting me asking if you do any in-person courses. You can't travel right now, but you do. Like that's what you did before COVID shut everything down. And you did a lot of work for us on private training. So I did want to say, hey guys, he does this. Like he's an instructor. So contact me, contact Anaxgum North America, or look you up on Facebook, I guess, right, to get in touch. But you can do that.
Whatever you want to set up. So as soon as possible, I come back to US. We have some this year, huh? We want to make a party, and so we have to do it maybe later in the year or next year. But as soon as possible, I come back and give the course whenever you want.
Yeah. Well, thank you so much, Florian. I'm going to switch over to your friend, Andreas Leimbach. So I met you, Andreas. I don't know how many years ago it's been now. It's been a while, like in Utah, maybe 3-4 years ago, right?
Yeah.
It's and I was like, who is this guy with this like perfect hair? And he looks so cool. And then I found out that you actually use probably as much Anaxgum as anybody in the world. And I thought, oh, wow. So you and I got a little chance to talk years ago. Yeah. But I didn't really get to know much about what you really do, what your focus is in your lab. What interests me the most, and the reason I'm so glad you agreed to talk today, is that in the States, it's changing a little, but dentists here historically have had a pretty negative perception of how composite holds up in the mouth. So for a long-term provisional, composite gingiva is totally accepted. That's fine. Nobody has to sell anybody on that. It works great. But when we're talking about a final, whether it's removable or especially even screw retained, there's a lot of apprehension with dentists here. They're worried that the surface isn't going to hold up over time. I know that it's different than ceramic, sure. But what I'd like to talk to you about today is more what your experience has been with your cases, with your composite gingiva cases, and what you see, how it really behaves long-term, because you have a lot of these in the mouth long-term. So I want to start by just asking a couple questions to help us understand what life in the lab is like for you. Actually, let's go back.
First of all, thank you for having me here.
Yes. Yes. So you have a lab in Germany, and it's gorgeous. I got to see it earlier today when we talked on the video. You're in your home now, which is also beautiful, by the way, but your lab's incredible. I know that in Europe, you do everything. You guys are fixed, you're removable, you're a mix of the two. What do you find yourself focusing on in your lab? What do you specialize in your lab?
So first of all, we put lots of passion in everything we do. So the lab is made with passion, and everything I do is made with passion. So in the past, I grew up with telescopic technique. So that's the first thing I met in the dental business. And I always love to do the milling stuff and the metal stuff and the precision and stuff like that. And this is what I do now these days. So
okay, so you do a lot of telescopes. I remember when I started Anaxtent North America back in 2012, one of the manuals from Anaxtent had a telescopic case in it. And
Yeah.
I was new to the lab world. So I didn't know that that wasn't like an everyday thing. I didn't even know what it was called. So I got a lot of comments about that. They said, well, nobody does telescopes. And that's different now. Like, I know you've always still done telescopes in Europe. It's remained, I don't know if it's common, but it's...
So it's German Crown, you know? That's the name in the US, or?
Really? So I know that now, because of the work of some pretty prominent technicians here in the States, like Arian Deutsch, he's kind of bringing more awareness of the telescopic bridge. So it's becoming a little bit more known, but I love it. Like if something happened to me tomorrow and I lost all my teeth in an accident or something, and I had to have implants placed in a full bridge, I would get a telescopic bridge 100% because I can take it out and I can clean it. But
yeah.
Okay.
I'd love to do it for you.
Thank you. I'm coming straight to you. Okay. So with your telescopic bridges, you have choices in materials, right? So out of all your telescopes, which percentage would you say that the gingiva is composite? And these are final restorations.
So it's depending on the case. So in the most cases are go ahead with a loss of bone. So that is my intention to do the restoration. I don't want to have just the teeth.
Yeah.
Free. I just want to have the red-white finish so that everything looks like it would be natural.
That's true. So out of all the cases where you do have pink, are most of your cases composite? Okay. So what other materials do you use on your telescopes? Are you doing any full ceramic?
No. So ceramic is the material which works for those removables because they are removable and they always get tension by removing. So ceramic would be not the right material. So it's always composite.
It's always composite. Okay.
It's always composite. So maybe we use PMMA.
Okay.
In some cases, and in a case like this, you see on the picture, it's just 3 pastes of Anaxgum in the interior region.
Oh wow, that's beautiful. So that upper is a telescopic bridge?
That's an upper telescopic bridge with 2 telescopes on the canine.
Okay.
And some in the back. I don't know. It's a few years ago we did this case, and this is quite a similar laying. It's just the 3 pastes. It's orange, pink, it's dark pink, and it's light pink, and that's all.
That's all. You didn't put any paints.
Nope. No
wow.
paint.
Wow. I mean, it looks real.
Yeah, it gives a visible. What means Übergang?
Nice. So
it's like a good mix between the cross that match the border to the natural gingiva really well.
It gives you a really good match, like PMMA would do.
Yeah, absolutely. So let me ask you, what do your dentist clients think about composite as a final material? Because technicians here in the States get considerable pushback. The dentists want to see articles. They don't believe that composite is a good choice for a final material. Now, I know that in your case, this is a removable. So obviously, patients can clean it differently than they can something that's screw retained on implants. But what's the perception by dentists in Germany? What do they think about composite long term? Does anybody have any apprehension about it?
No, nobody has a problem with that because there is no other option for that. Because ceramic doesn't work and PMMA doesn't look like this. So this is the only option we've got.
Yeah.
And till now, everybody's happy.
Okay.
I got no problem with that. And patients have no problem with that. They, as you said, you can remove this. If it's getting dirty, you can clean it. It's not like a fixed bridge in the mouth. So we got a lot of with this removables.
That makes sense. So let me ask you, speaking of surface longevity or just preserving the surface, in your experience, what finishing technique do you use right now, first of all? And have you seen different techniques work better than others on keeping the composite clean for a long time?
Yeah, we used different techniques in the past, but for me, the main technique I always use with these removables is to get an OptiGlaze finish on the surface.
Okay.
Just to put everything up, to get a little natural image on it, and just to get a smooth, clean surface, which is polished at the end.
Okay. So you glaze and then you polish. So I pulled up a question from Dan Elfring. He says, polish or glaze, pros and cons of each. So you were actually just answering this question already. You glaze because you like a nice clean surface with the glaze, and then you polish that glaze.
Right.
Okay. Are you polishing?
Get a natural finish of that.
Okay, because it's too shiny.
If you don't polish it, it's like super glossy. For me, too much. So
gingiva isn't glossy, so that makes sense. You've got to bring it down a little bit. So you seal the surface, clean glaze, and then you bring it down. What do you use to polish the glaze?
I use in Germany we call it Bimstein. How do you call it in the US?
I have no idea. Diamond? Pumice. Pumice.
Pumice. Okay.
I don't know. I think pumice.
Yeah, and at the end, just with a diamond paste.
Okay.
Polished.
Okay.
Yeah.
We've got one comment. I prefer to polish. The glaze melts. Good question. Okay, you have beautiful form and texture in that case that's up on the screen right now.
Yeah.
With the OptiGlaze, I'm guessing you use the thinner one, the low viscosity version, so you don't fill in that texture. Do you ever have problems with the glaze almost erasing the texture that you built in?
You have to be careful. You don't have to use too much of it, because then the surface very smooth. So if you want to have texture, you just have to use a little bit of those of the
glaze.
How glaze? Also this
high viscosity.
Yeah, this high viscosity, and some colors in the set are really
the OptiGlaze colors.
Yeah, the OptiGlaze colors are set it with those
Well, and it has a lot to do also sometimes with what brush you use to apply the glaze, because some of the brushes are going to hold a lot more material in them than others.
You
what
have
brush do you use?
Make sure that it's not too much material on the brush.
Okay.
So
what kind of brush do you use? Do you ever use the micro brush, like the little bitty micro brush with the white fuzzy head?
No, it's just a bigger brush, just to measure it in.
Okay. Okay. No. So I got another comment here. Junction between the teeth and gingiva. Yes. So when OptiGlaze first came out, I went crazy over it. I loved it. And so I would tell all these people that were worried about the composite surface with just polishing, I would say, hey, GC has this new product. It's amazing. And it is. Like the testing that they did on it, it shows that it makes a great long-term surface. But I recommended it to all these people, and they started calling me angry because along the gingival margin, it all turned brown. Because I didn't know at the time, like you can't let it pool anywhere. If it's too thick, it won't cure all the way, and it starts to be discolored in the mouth really quickly. Or if your light doesn't reach the right spectrum, like if it's still a little tacky at the end, it's not cured and it's going to discolor. So using the glaze properly is really important. But he's asking if you have any tips to glaze to move the glaze around without letting it pool along that gingival line.
No, I don't have any problems like this. So you have to cure it the right way, and everything worked fine.
Do you ever use air to move any excess material?
No.
No, you're just being very careful. Like you just don't get too much on your brush, right?
Yeah, that's right. That's it.
Okay, just very light, just very small amount of material on your brush. That makes sense.
Maybe one of the tips is also just wait before you cure it. It's like with the bonding the same. I just wait for another 15 seconds before I cure it, so material can go just a little bit more inside in the material, in the composites. And also, if it's too thick, when you layer that, you will see it's much thinner after 15 seconds.
Okay, that's really, really good. And then your buddy Javier is watching, guys. He's giving you high fives. Hey, Javi. Okay, so there are a couple more questions, if you don't mind, Andreas. Let's see. We had one about, still on the polishing and surface treatment question. What do you use to polish with the Anaxdent Pasta Grigia? So I don't know if you've used Pasta Grigia from Anaxdent. Andreas, have you used Anaxdent's polishing paste? It's just an ultra fine diamond.
No.
Wrong answer.
Sorry, I use.
That's okay.
Figuramet. What's his name?
To be fair, you asked me before we went live, you asked me, can I say what I really use? And I said, please say what you really use. So, I mean, diamond paste.
Yeah.
I guess the people that make diamond polishing paste would hate me to say this, but it's fine diamond paste. I mean, how different can it be? But what rotary tools do you use? Do you use a Robinson wheel, a chamois?
Yes, okay. A Robinson wheel with not so fast, and a little bit of polish paste. Yeah. Okay,
it's just a little bit of polishing paste, Robinson wheel, soft Robinson wheel, or do you use medium?
A soft Robinson wheel with a bit pressure on it. So
just a little pressure and slow speed.
Yeah, slow speed. Yeah.
Okay, and that's what you take to finish. Like there's not like a buffer after that, like a chamois or lamb's wool after that. Okay.
That's all.
All right. And this is an interesting question. So Jasmine is asking if you recommend Composite to do a reline for a full arch zirconia. Now, I know that your specialty is removable, but you may still have opinions on this. And Florian, maybe you can help too. If you've got a case where you have bone, like the bone position changes after the final, and you've got space to fill, what do you think about filling that space with Composite?
We talk about many years, Tay, you know that.
I'm acting like I've never asked you this question before. That's dishonest. I've asked you this question. I know what you're going to say, but nobody else does. So what is your opinion?
It was always a problem to connect Composite or premium to Zirconia. I know there's some bonding system. I have a meeting with GC last year, and they explained me they have really now the best bonding for Zirconia. I don't believe it's the same like Zirconia bonding from Anax. If I have to do that, I prefer to bake a thin layer of ceramic on top, etch that, and then I use the bonding.
Yes.
I have had a feeling for that, but I know exactly also the new Zirconia bondings, they work. When you glue your interfaces inside, you use it also, and it works. For me, it's normally not the best option, but of course, if we have to repair something, or we have to, the only way, then you have to use the Zirconia bonding. But I believe if you bake just a thin layer of ceramic, etch that, and use that in a bonding system, it's the better way, I believe.
So maybe the real takeaway is if there's any risk at all to the bone level changing at any point after creating the final, you really should bake a layer of ceramic on the intaglio surface from the beginning, because you don't want to put it back in the oven again and do that, right?
You're so clever and smart, eh?
I know. This isn't my first rodeo, Florian. Okay. Let me just make sure. Oh, hey, back to this. I know we've talked a lot about it, but this is a really good point. Back to the glaze before we wrap up. If you put too thin the glaze, then you see brush strokes. If you put too thick, it pools. In your experience, if you put it too thin and you see the brush strokes, do those brush strokes tend to settle out with time? Because that's what I've experienced.
No. I would say also no.
No? So the brush strokes stay. Because when I wasn't using OptiGlaze. I was using nano varnish because that's what we have. When I put the nano varnish on thin, I'll see the brush strokes for just like maybe 10 seconds, and then it kind of settles out to be smooth.
But it's thinner, you know, it's more
less viscous.
The OptiGlaze, and I would say most of the problem is that the people, they don't want to spend maybe $5 more for a good brush. I believe if you have a really good brush, so I'm using a ceramic brush, Kolinsky, you know, this is really small, and it gives me a
size brush? What size Kolinsky brush do you like the best for applying glaze?
Yes, that's what matters. No, so but I prefer to have a really nice Kolinsky. I clean it after the brush.
What do you use to clean?
Most of the time, just when you clean it right after, so I use alcohol to clean.
Alcohol. Okay. I get that question too. Alcohol. I know. You know what? I got this worked. Like, I wasn't nervous this whole time. I think that's a new tradition. Screwball shot at the beginning of the episode. So speaking of screwballs, I am going to have our buddy Andreas Leimbach on the show next time. Like the ultimate screwball. We call him the Willy Wonka of dentistry. And I have to tell a story. We're about to leave. It's almost over. But I have to tell you before we go out that I always make a video to play at the end of each episode, and it announces who I have on next, right? So they send me a picture, and I, cut it out and I put it in. Well, Andreas didn't send me his picture, okay? So I Googled him, and I found a picture that I thought was great. And I sent him the video, and he said, "No, calm down. Don't use that picture. I send you another." And I said, "You got 30 minutes. You don't send me another one. This is the one I'm using. So just know this picture is not the one that you chose."
No, give a shit on that. Put a Willy Wonka picture on top.
I know, a little hat or something, a Willy Wonka hat. So next time, thank you so much, guys. Like, I've gotten already comments. Thank you so much for sharing your knowledge. I think you both work with the material all the time, and you're working in a market where your skill and your passion, it could possibly be more appreciated than that same skill and passion can be here in America. So a lot of what you shared today probably seems pretty straightforward and normal to you, but it is all such valuable information for the technicians here to have. So the fact that they can hop on their computer and this is free, I mean, thank you so much. You help a lot. I don't think this is the last anaxSKOOL that either one of you will be on. I think we'll have to do this again. This was great. Yep. Thank you.
Thank you. And I would say, if it's possible to fly over, let's do a course. We talked for a while with Terry, and I think we have to do a course together with my buddy Andreas and with me coming. Maybe for our birthday party.
Doing a telescopic course. We totally talked about doing telescopes. So that maybe is something we need to pick back up and figure out for sure. One of these days, so we can all see each other again. Hopefully. Well, thank you. Thank you both so much. You get to start your weekend. Yes. I'm jealous because I've got a work day ahead of me. But thank you so much for spending the early evening with us over there in Germany. And I will talk to you both soon. Have a great weekend.
For you too, and for all together. Thank you for watching that. And
thanks, guys.
Bye.
See you soon. Bye.